Hello, everyone. So, forming compounds and bonding. Um, the first thing we need to clarify is the difference between covalent and ionic compounds. We know covalent compounds are formed between two nonmetals. Ionic compounds are formed between a metal and a nonmetal. We also know that covalent compounds are formed by sharing electrons. Ionic compounds are formed by transfer from a metal ion to a nonmetal ion. What are or how can you identify if an atom or an ion is a metal or a non-metal? So the first thing is a metal is usually positively charged or forms a positively charged ion. A non-metal would usually form, or non-metal element would usually form a negatively charged um, ion. Now, which groups would form a positively charged ion and which groups would form a negatively charged ion? Group ones. Group ones are metals because group ones means that they have one electron in the valence shell. Now, if they have one electron in the valence shell, which would they prefer to do? Lose that one electron to become like a noble gas, or gain seven more electrons to become like a noble gas? Now, of course, they would rather lose that one electron, and because they would lose that one electron to become positively charged, and so therefore they are known as alkali metals, or if you're looking at group two, alkali earth metals. Now, group 15 and 17, respectively, group 15 is close to group 18, which is a noble gas, right? And group 15 only needs to gain three electrons to become 18, right? Only needs to gain three electrons to become like noble gas. Let's do it. So we're looking at B here. B is in group 15, and if B gains those three electrons, it's going to be negatively charged. It's going to become an anion, right? So nonmetals, first thing we need to understand is that nonmetals will always form a negative ion. All right. So group 17, the same thing is going to happen here. Group 17 only needs to gain one electron, and once it gains that one electron, it becomes a stable ion, and therefore it's also a nonmetal. So that helps us to answer question 1A. Which two elements would form a covalent compound? We know covalent compounds would only be formed between two nonmetals, and therefore we're looking at B and C. Question 1B, which two elements would form an ionic compound? Because ionic compounds are formed only between a metal and a nonmetal, we're looking at A can combine with B or A can combine with C, right? So these two answers will be correct. Which atom is the most electron negative? Electron negativity is a tendency or the ease with which an atom can attract electrons, and we know that group 17 because they only need one electron. So it's easier for them to become stable with one electron than it is for someone who is in group 15, for example, who still needs three electrons, right? Or who needs two more electrons than group 17. So group 17 only needs one electron, and that's one major reason why they are more electronegative. There are other reasons, of course, that we've covered during the class, which would include things like the size, the distance between the nucleus, which is positively charged, and the valence shell. We know that the distance from the nucleus to the valence shell is smaller for group 17s than it is for group 15. So, and that has to do with the atomic radius, which we covered before. You don't have to focus so much on that, by the way, for the final exam. Anyways, question number 2. Um, what is the resulting chemical formula of the compound formed when magnesium ion combines with chloride ions, or when magnesium ions combine with chloride ions? To answer this question, the first thing we need to know is that magnesium ion is actually Mg2+, right? And chloride ion is going to be Cl-. So to answer a question like this, right, all you have to know is we bring down this 2, the numbers are going to combine, right? We bring down this 2 here, and we bring down the invisible 1 here. It's -1, but we only care about the number itself. We don't care about the signs in this case. And then you just trade, right? You exchange the numbers, and magnesium is going to end up with Mg1, but we don't usually write the 1. And Cl is going to end up with the 2, right? It got the 2 from magnesium. It's going to be MgCl2. Simple, right? So if you have something like a different example would be sodium, right? If we have sodium combining with oxygen, for example. So sodium has a 1 plus, right? And oxygen has a 2 minus. The same thing happens, right? You combine, the 2 is going to go to the sodium and the 1 is going to come to the oxygen. So you're going to end up with Na2O, right? So that will be the final answer to this question. And that's it for forming compounds for now in that slide. Next question is on, again, the difference between covalent and ionic bonds, how they're formed. We know that it's formed between the metal and the non-metal, in this case, sodium and chlorine for ionic compounds. So therefore, we already know that this is going to be an ionic compound. But another thing that confirms it is that we see that there's a transfer from sodium. Sodium is donating one of its electrons to chlorine and not receiving anything from chlorine. So once this happens, chlorine is going to be negatively charged and sodium is going to be positively charged. And because positives always attract negatives, they will attract each other to form the ionic bond. So this is definitely an ionic bond that's formed between chlorine ion and sodium ion. Now, what about covalent bonds? Covalent bonds are formed by sharing between nonmetals. So hydrogen is a nonmetal, even if it's in group 1, it's a nonmetal. Sodium is a nonmetal as well, it's in group 15, and it's going to have to combine with 3 hydrogen atoms because it needs 3 electrons to become like a noble gas. It's going to combine with 3 hydrogen atoms. Hydrogen becomes happy and nitrogen is also happy. So yes, these are 2 nonmetals that combine and they form a covalent bond. That's it for bonding, and that's all you need to know for the exam.